I was 71 when my daughter told me I had no home. Standing on her doorstep with a hospital discharge bag and nowhere else to go, I watched Amanda sip her morning coffee through the screen door. She didn't invite me in, didn't ask how I was feeling after 3 weeks in cardiac care. Just stood there in her bathrobe, looking at me like I was selling something she didn't want. "Dad, you can't stay here. This isn't your home." The words came out flat, matter of fact, like she was reading from a script she'd practiced. I didn't argue. Didn't remind her about the night 15 years ago when she called crying about foreclosure papers. Didn't mention how I'd emptied my savings account the next morning, how I'd signed papers with shaking hands to keep her family housed. I just looked at her face through that screen, the same face that used to press against my workshop window when she was 8, watching me build her dollhouse. Same eyes that once lit up when I came home from work. Now those eyes looked right through me. I picked up my bag and walked away. Behind me, I heard the deadbolt turn. The motel on Highway 9 rented rooms by the week. $43 for a space smaller than Amanda's closet, with a heater that rattled and a shower that ran brown for the first 5 minutes. I paid for 3 weeks up front, most of what I had left after the hospital bills. My belongings fit in 2 garbage bags, clothes that smelled like disinfectant, a few books, the leather folder I'd kept in my nightstand for 16 years, wrapped in Helen's good dish towel. That folder was the only thing Amanda didn't know about. I called my grandson Jake that first night, 17 years old, starting his senior year. The phone rang 6 times before going to voicemail. His voice sounded like mine at that age, uncertain but trying to be strong. "Hey, it's Jake. Leave a message. It's Grandpa. Just wanted to see how you're doing. Call me when you get a chance." He didn't call back. The motel manager was a thin woman named Carol, who looked at me with the kind of pity reserved for old men with nowhere to go. She showed me how to work the coin-operated laundry and warned me about the ice machine that ate quarters. "You stayin' long, hun?" she asked, clipboard in hand. "Until I don't need to." She didn't ask what that meant. That first night, lying on sheets that smelled like industrial bleach, I thought about the last thing Helen said to me before the cancer took her voice completely. "Don't let them forget who you are." I hadn't understood then. I thought she meant my name, my stories, the way I liked my coffee. But lying in that narrow motel bed, I finally understood. She meant, don't let them erase you. Don't let them pretend you never mattered. Don't let them turn you into a problem to be solved rather than a person to be loved. Amanda thought I was helpless, thought I had nowhere to go and no way to fight back, thought I'd disappear quietly like old people were supposed to do. She was wrong about that. The leather folder sat on the nightstand, wrapped in Helen's dish towel. Inside were papers Amanda had forgotten about. Papers with her signature at the bottom next to mine. Papers that might change everything. But first, I needed to think. Old men who act in anger make mistakes they can't undo. Helen taught me that too. I closed my eyes and listened to the highway traffic. 18-wheelers carrying goods to places that mattered, driven by people with homes to return to. Tomorrow, I'd decide what to do with what I remembered. Tonight, I just remember. 2 days later, scrolling through Facebook on the library computer, I saw the photo. My reading chair, the brown leather recliner I'd spent 2 months repairing after Helen passed. I'd stripped every piece of cracked leather, restuffed the cushions, fixed the reclining mechanism twice. It had been her chair first, then mine. Amanda had posted it in a local buy and sell group. Vintage recliner. Needs to go today. $40 OBO. Must pick up. $40. For a chair that had held 3 generations of our family, where I'd read bedtime stories to Amanda when she was small, where Jake used to curl up next to me during thunderstorms before he got too old for such things. In the photo, my chair sat on Amanda's front porch like garbage waiting for pickup. A cardboard sign hung from the armrest. SOLD. I stared at that picture for 20 minutes. The library closed around me, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. When the librarian asked if I needed help, I just shook my head and logged off. Walking back to the motel, I passed the house I'd lived in for 42 years. The house where Helen and I raised Amanda, where we'd hosted Christmas dinners and birthday parties and graduation celebrations. The house Amanda inherited when Helen died, then sold 6 months later to buy her current place across town. The new owners had painted it blue. Helen would have hated that. At the motel, Carol was mopping the sidewalk in front of the office. She looked up when I approached, cigarette dangling from her lips. "You okay, hon? You look like someone kicked your dog." "Just tired." "Well, you got a visitor earlier, young man. Said he was your grandson. Left this." She handed me a folded piece of paper. Jake's handwriting, messy like his father's had been. "Grandpa, Mom said you don't want to see us anymore. Is that true? Call me, please." I folded the note carefully and put it in my shirt pocket. "He seemed upset," Carol said. "Nice kid, though." That night, I called Jake. This time, he answered on the second ring. "Grandpa, where are you? Mom said you moved away, but she won't tell me where." His voice carried that careful tone teenagers use when adults have been talking around them, not to them. "I'm staying at a motel on Highway 9, the Sleepy Inn." A motel? But why? What happened? Such simple questions, such complicated answers. "Your mother and I had a disagreement about living arrangements. She said you didn't want to live with us anymore." I closed my eyes. Even now, even after everything, Amanda was rewriting history to make herself comfortable. "What do you think, Jake? Do you think I wouldn't want to be near you?" "I don't know what to think anymore. Everything's been weird since you got out of the hospital. Mom keeps saying things that don't make sense." "Like what?" "Like how you need independence and how it's healthier for everyone if you have your own space." "But Grandpa, you were in the hospital for 3 weeks. You shouldn't be alone." Smart boy. Smarter than his mother gave him credit for. "I'm fine, Jake. Don't worry about me." "But I do worry, and I miss you. It's not the same here without you." My chest tightened. "I miss you too. Can I come see you? Tomorrow after school?" I looked around my motel room. 1 chair, 1 bed, a TV that got 3 channels. Not exactly the place to entertain a 17-year-old. "How about we meet somewhere else?" "That diner on Main Street. 4 o'clock. "Okay. Grandpa?" "Yeah?" "I saw her posting your chair online. I tried to stop her, but she said it was taking up too much space." The knife twisted a little deeper. "It's just a chair, Jake." "No, it's not. It's your chair. Where you taught me to tie my shoes. Where we watched baseball games. She had no right. He was angry. Good. Someone should be. After we hung up, I sat in the dark for a long time. Outside, Highway 9 hummed with traffic. People going places, returning home, living lives that mattered to someone. I unwrapped Helen's dish towel and pulled out the leather folder. The papers inside were 16 years old, but still crisp, still valid. Amanda's signature at the bottom of the residential agreement, promising me a place in any home she owned for the rest of my natural life. She'd forgotten about these papers, or hoped I had. I hadn't forgotten anything. Tomorrow, I'd see Jake. I'd look into his young face and decide whether to be the grandfather who disappeared quietly or the one who fought back. Whether to let Amanda erase me or remind her that some things, once signed, can't be undone. Helen's voice whispered from memory, "Don't let them forget who you are." I was starting to remember who that was. The next afternoon, Jake was already waiting when I arrived at the diner. 17 years old and 6 feet tall, but sitting hunched over a chocolate milkshake like he was still 12. He looked up when I walked in, and I saw Helen's eyes in his face, that particular shade of blue that skipped Amanda entirely. "Grandpa?" He stood up too fast, bumping the table. The relief in his voice made my chest tight. I slid into the booth across from him. The vinyl was cracked and patched with duct tape, but it was clean. The waitress brought me coffee without asking. Black, the way I'd been drinking it for 70 years. "You look good," Jake said, which was a lie. I looked like what I was, an old man living in a motel, wearing the same shirt 2 days running. "You look worried." He stirred his milkshake absently. "Mom's been acting strange. Stranger than usual, I mean. Yesterday she made me help her move all your stuff to the garage. Said you were coming back for it eventually." "All of it?" "Everything except—" He hesitated. "She threw away a lot of your papers. Old bills, photos, stuff like that. I tried to save what I could, but she was watching." My hand stayed steady around the coffee cup, but something cold settled in my stomach. "What kind of papers?" "I don't know. She said they were just clutter. But, Grandpa, some of those photos were of you and Grandma. Wedding pictures, pictures of Mom when she was little. Why would she throw those away? Because she was erasing me, systematically removing evidence that I'd ever been part of their lives, making it easier to sleep at night, I supposed. "Jake, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." He set down his spoon. "Okay. When your mother told you I didn't want to live there anymore, did you believe her?" He was quiet for a long time. Outside the diner window, school buses were making their afternoon rounds, carrying children home to families who wanted them. "At first, maybe. You've been different since Grandma died. Quieter. And after the heart attack." He shrugged. "I thought maybe you needed space. And now? Now, I think she's lying." The words came out fast, like he'd been holding them back. "You would have told me if you were leaving. You would have said goodbye properly. And you wouldn't have left your tools in the garage or your coffee mug in the kitchen sink. You wouldn't have left me." Smart boy. Too smart for his own good sometimes. "Your mother isn't a bad person, Jake." "Then why is she doing this? How do you explain to a 17-year-old that love isn't always enough? That sometimes people make choices that seem cruel, but feel necessary to them? That his mother looked at me and saw her own future, old, dependent, inconvenient? She's scared, I said finally. Taking care of people is hard work. But you took care of her when Dad left, when she couldn't make the mortgage payments, when I was sick that winter with pneumonia and she had to work double shifts. You were always there. He remembered. Of course he remembered. Children see everything, even when adults think they're being subtle. That was different. How? Because I was her father. Because that's what parents do. Because I'd made promises to Helen on her deathbed that I intended to keep. But I couldn't say any of that without making Jake choose sides, and 17 was too young for that kind of burden. Eat your food, I said instead. You're too skinny. He smiled a little, the first genuine smile I'd seen from him. Grandma used to say the same thing. Your grandmother was a smart woman. We talked about safer things after that. His senior year, college applications, a girl named Sarah who sat behind him in calculus, normal grandfather-grandson conversation, the kind we used to have every evening over dinner. For 40 minutes, I almost forgot about motel rooms and garbage bags and chairs sold for $40. Then Jake's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen, and his face changed. It's Mom. She wants to know where I am. Tell her. She's going to be mad that I came here without asking. You're 17. You can visit your grandfather without permission. He typed back quickly, then set the phone face down on the table. She says I need to come home. Family meeting. My stomach tightened. About what? She didn't say. But, Grandpa, there's something else. Something I probably should have told you already. The careful way he said it made me pay attention. What is it? She's been talking to lawyers. I heard her on the phone yesterday. Something about making sure you can't. I don't know exactly. Legal stuff. The cold in my stomach spread to my chest. Amanda wasn't just erasing my presence. She was trying to erase my rights. Make sure I couldn't come back, even if I wanted to. Jake, I need you to listen to me carefully. He leaned forward, sensing the change in my voice. Whatever your mother tells you tonight, whatever she says about me or why I left, I want you to remember this. I didn't abandon you. I didn't choose to leave, and I didn't stop loving you or your mother just because we're living apart now. His eyes filled. Are you going away? Like, really going away? I don't know yet. But you'll tell me before you decide. I reached across the table and squeezed his hand. His fingers were long like mine, calloused from working on his car. Good hands, honest hands. I promise. After Jake left, I sat in the diner until the dinner crowd arrived. The waitress refilled my coffee 3 times without comment. Nice woman. Probably had grandparents of her own. At 7:30, I walked back to the motel. Carol was in the office, watching a game show with the sound turned up too loud. You got another visitor, she called through the window. Lady this time. Fancy car. Left about an hour ago when you didn't show. Amanda. Come to check on my living situation, probably. Make sure I was properly miserable. In my room, I unwrapped Helen's dish towel and spread it across the bed. The leather folder sat in the center like an altar offering. Inside, the residential agreement waited. 16 years old, notarized, legally binding. I'd never intended to use it. When Amanda signed those papers, crying with gratitude as she promised I'd always have a home with her family, we'd both believed it was just a formality. insurance against a disaster that would never come. But disasters have a way of sneaking up on you. Heart attacks, loneliness, children who forget that love is supposed to flow both ways. I read the document 3 times, studying every clause. Amanda Marie Hartwell Morrison agreed to provide housing and basic care for George William Hartwell for the duration of his natural life, in consideration for financial assistance in the amount of $127,000. Signed, witnessed, filed with the county clerk. My lawyer had insisted on that language. "George," Harold had said, "you're giving away your retirement. Make sure she can't change her mind later." I'd laughed at him then. Amanda was my daughter. Family didn't need contracts. Harold Morrison had been my friend for 25 years. He'd handled Helen's estate, helped us write our wills, guided us through the legal maze of growing old in America. He was also, I knew, Amanda's lawyer now. Conflict of interest, some might call it, but small towns make their own rules about such things. I looked at my watch. 8:15. Harold would be home, probably watching the news with his wife Margaret. They'd invited Helen and me to dinner countless times over the years. Good people, fair people. I dialed his number. "Harold? It's George. I'm sorry to call so late." "George? Jesus, where have you been? Amanda said that you'd decided to live somewhere else." Did she now? A pause. Harold had known our family for 20 years. He could hear what I wasn't saying. "George, what's going on?" "I'm calling about the residential agreement we filed in 2009, the one Amanda signed." The silence stretched longer this time. I could practically hear Harold's mind working, sorting through legal obligations and personal loyalties. "George, I need to tell you something. Amanda came to see me yesterday." My grip tightened on the phone. "About what?" "She wanted to know if there was any way to modify the terms of that agreement. She's concerned about your health, your ability to live independently. She thinks it might be better for everyone if you had professional care." Professional care. A nursing home, in other words. Somewhere Amanda could visit twice a month with a clear conscience. And what did you tell her? I told her the agreement was ironclad. You paid consideration, she accepted it, and the terms are clear. She can't unilaterally change the arrangement. But George, if you were to voluntarily relinquish your rights, which I haven't done. You haven't. Harold, I want you to prepare a notice, official channels, certified mail. Inform Amanda that I'm exercising my rights under the 2009 agreement and that I expect her to comply with its terms. George, are you sure about this? Sometimes families can work things out without involving lawyers. We tried that. It didn't work. Think about what this might do to your relationship with Amanda and with Jake. I'd been thinking about it for 3 days, thinking about pride versus loneliness, legal rights versus family peace, thinking about Helen's voice. Don't let them forget who you are. She signed it, Harold. I never forgot. After I hung up, I sat on the edge of the motel bed and looked at my reflection in the dark window. An old man with thin gray hair and tired eyes, wearing a cardigan that had seen better decades. Amanda thought I was helpless, thought I'd disappear quietly into whatever corner she chose for me, thought I'd be grateful for whatever scraps of attention she was willing to throw my way. She was about to learn otherwise. I folded the agreement carefully and slipped it back into its plastic sleeve. Tomorrow, Harold would draft the notice. Amanda would receive it within a week, and then we'd see whether blood was really thicker than signatures. Outside my window, Highway 9 hummed with late-night traffic, but for the first time in days, I felt like I was finally moving forward too. The certified letter arrived on a Thursday morning. I know because Jake called me at 7:30, his voice tight with confusion. "Grandpa, what did you do?" I was sitting in the diner, working on my second cup of coffee and watching the morning rush through the window. Commuters grabbing breakfast before work, parents dropping kids at school, people with normal lives. "What do you mean?" "Mom got some kind of legal document in the mail. She's been on the phone with lawyers for 2 hours. She keeps saying your name, and not in a good way." I stirred sugar into my coffee slowly. "What kind of document?" "I don't know exactly. Something about a contract from 2009. Grandpa, she's really upset, like scary upset." Of course she was. Amanda had spent 15 years forgetting about that piece of paper, pretending it didn't exist. Now it was staring her in the face with official letterhead and legal language. "Jake, I need you to stay calm. This is between your mother and me. But what if she kicks me out too? What if she decides I'm too much trouble?" The fear in his voice cut deep. 17 years old and already learning that love sometimes has conditions. "She won't kick you out. You're her son. You're her father." True enough. And look how well that had protected me. After we hung up, I sat in the diner for another hour. The waitress kept my coffee cup full without being asked. Her name was Betty, grandmother of 4, widow for 6 years. "You look thoughtful today," she said during a lull. "Family troubles?" "The complicated kind or the impossible kind?" "Haven't decided yet." At 10:15, my phone rang. Amanda's number. I let it go to voicemail. She called again at 10:30, again at 11. At 11:20, she left a message. "Dad, we need to talk. This is ridiculous. Call me back." Her voice carried that strained patience she'd perfected as a teenager, furious but trying to sound reasonable. I didn't call back. At noon, Harold Morrison called. "George, I've got Amanda in my office. She wants to discuss the residential agreement." "I'm sure she does." "She's prepared to make a counteroffer. Assisted living facility. Very nice place. She'd cover all the costs." "That's generous of her." "George, I think you should consider it. The Meadowbrook facility is really quite nice. Private rooms, activities, medical staff on site. Better for Amanda's peace of mind, more likely. Pack the old man away somewhere clean and safe, visit on holidays, sleep soundly knowing professionals were handling the inconvenience." "Harold, is Amanda paying you to convince me?" A pause. "She's my client, George. I have to represent her interests. And I'm your client, too. It's complicated." "No, it's not. The agreement is valid. Amanda is in breach. End of complication." "George, please, just come in and talk to her." "Tell Amanda I'll be at her house at 6 o'clock. I spent the afternoon at the library reading newspapers and trying to ignore the knot in my stomach. At 4:30, I walked back to the motel to shower and change clothes. If I was going to have this conversation, I wanted to look like a man who deserved respect, not charity. At exactly 6 o'clock, I rang Amanda's doorbell. The same doorbell I'd rung with a hospital bag in my hand and nowhere else to go. Jake answered. His face was pale, eyes darting nervously. "Grandpa, Mom's in the living room. She's—" "Just be careful, okay?" I followed him inside. The house smelled like lemon furniture polish and vanilla candles. It was a nice house, 4 bedrooms, big backyard. I'd helped make the down payment. My signature was on some of the loan documents. Amanda was sitting on the couch, papers spread across the coffee table. She looked up when I walked in, and for a second I saw the little girl who used to run to me when she scraped her knee. But her eyes were cold now. "Dad, thank you for coming." "Amanda." She gestured to the armchair across from her, where I'd sat every Sunday for 2 years, reading Jake the comics. "Please, sit down." I remained standing. "I think there's been a misunderstanding," she said, voice carefully controlled. "Harold explained about this old contract, but I think we can resolve this without lawyers." "What kind of misunderstanding?" She picked up a paper from the coffee table. "This agreement from 2009. I was under a lot of stress then. The divorce, the mortgage problems. I may have signed something I didn't fully understand." "You understood it perfectly. You cried when you signed it, said you'd never forget what I was doing for your family." Her jaw tightened. "That was 15 years ago, Dad. Things change." "What circumstances?" "Your health, for one thing. You had a heart attack. You're 71 years old. You need medical supervision. I need a home, like the contract says. This isn't about the contract anymore. This is about what's best for you." I looked around the living room, at the photos on the mantel, Amanda's wedding, Jake's school pictures, family vacations. I was in some of those photos, standing in the background, smiling. Had she planned to throw those away too? "Where's my chair?" I asked. She blinked. "What? My reading chair? The brown recliner. Where is it?" "I told you, we needed the space, and it was getting old." "I rebuilt that chair twice. It was in perfect condition." "Dad, let's not argue about furniture." "You sold it for $40. I needed to clear out some things. You weren't here to ask." "I wasn't here because you told me this wasn't my home." Jake shifted uncomfortably in the doorway. Amanda glanced at him, then back at me. "Maybe we should discuss this privately." "Jake stays. This affects him too. He's 17. He doesn't need to be involved in adult decisions. He's old enough to watch his grandfather get thrown away. He's old enough to hear why." Amanda's composure cracked slightly. "That's not fair. What's not fair is erasing someone's life like it never mattered. What's not fair is signing a legal document and then pretending it doesn't exist. I was desperate in 2009. You know that. And I helped you, because that's what family does. And I'm trying to help you now. The Meadowbrook facility is beautiful. You'd have your own room, activities, people your own age. Then what? Living with my family? Then being alone all the time. Then worrying about medications or eating properly or what happens if you have another heart attack." There it was. Not love, not concern for my happiness. Fear. Fear of responsibility, of having her life complicated by an old man's needs. "So your solution is to warehouse me somewhere you can visit when convenient." That's not how I see it. How do you see it? She was quiet for a long moment, staring at the papers on her coffee table. When she looked up, her eyes were bright with unshed tears. I see a father who raised me to be independent and strong, and now I'm supposed to watch you get weaker every day, and I don't know how to do that. It scares me." It was the most honest thing she'd said in months. "You think it doesn't scare me, too?" I asked. "You think I want to feel like a burden?" "Then why won't you consider Meadowbrook? They have trained staff." "Because it's not about the help, Amanda. It's about where you get old. It's about being surrounded by people who remember who you used to be." Jake stepped forward from the doorway. "Mom, why can't Grandpa just live here? He always has before." Amanda turned to him, something desperate in her face. "Jake, it's complicated." "No, it's not," he said. "Either you want him here or you don't. It's not that simple." "Yes, it is. Either Grandpa is family or he's not." "Don't you dare make this about love," Amanda snapped. "This is about practical reality, about medical needs and financial responsibility." "It's about the contract," I said quietly. She turned back to me, face flushed with anger and frustration. "Yes, fine. It's about the contract. You want to wave that piece of paper around like some kind of weapon? I want what was promised to me." Well, maybe promises change. Maybe contracts get old and irrelevant. I reached into my jacket and pulled out a folded paper. Harold had delivered it that afternoon. Amanda's counterfiling, arguing that changed circumstances invalidated the original agreement. "Your lawyer seems to think it does," I said, placing it on her coffee table. Amanda's face went pale. She hadn't expected me to see it so quickly. "That's just—" "Harold said we needed to explore options." "By arguing that I'm mentally incompetent—" Jake stepped forward, face dark with anger. "Mom, you didn't. It's a legal strategy, Jake. It means you're trying to have me declared unfit," I said, "so you can put me wherever you want without my consent." The room was very quiet. Outside, children were playing in someone's backyard, their voices high and happy. Normal family sounds. "Mom?" Jake's voice was small. "Is that really what you think?" Amanda looked at her son, then at me, then at the scattered papers. For a moment, I thought she might apologize. Instead, she squared her shoulders. "I think you're a 71-year-old man who just had a heart attack and is living in a motel room because he's too proud to accept help. I think you're using an old contract to manipulate me, and I think Jake deserves to finish high school without worrying about medical emergencies." There it was, the truth. I wasn't her father anymore. I was a problem to be solved. I folded the paper and put it back in my jacket. Well, at least we understand each other now. "Dad, I'm trying to do what's best for everyone." "No, you're trying to do what's easiest for you." I turned to Jake, who was standing with tears in his eyes. "Remember what I told you about not abandoning people?" He nodded. I walked to the front door, then stopped and looked back. "Do you know what your mother would say about all this?" "Don't." "She'd say that taking care of people isn't supposed to be convenient. It's supposed to be love." I left before she could answer. Behind me, I heard Jake's voice, high and angry. "Mom, how could you do that to him?" But I was already walking away. The next morning, Harold called me at 8:30. I was sitting in the diner, pushing scrambled eggs around my plate and watching Betty refill sugar dispensers. "George, we need to talk. can you come to my office?" "About what?" "About Amanda's petition for guardianship, about the psychological evaluation she's requesting, about the fact that this whole thing is spiraling out of control." I set down my fork. "Guardianship?" "She filed yesterday afternoon. Claims you're making irrational decisions, living in unsafe conditions, potentially suffering from early dementia." The eggs turned to ash in my mouth. Dementia? "George, I've known you for 25 years. You're sharper than most men half your age. But Amanda's scared, and scared people do stupid things." "How stupid?" "She's hired Janet Kowalski. You know Janet. She specializes in elder law, guardianship cases. She's good at what she does." Janet Kowalski. I remembered her from church functions, PTA meetings when Amanda was in school. Sharp woman. The kind who could make a judge believe that up was down if it served her case. "And you're representing Amanda in this?" A long pause. "George, I can't represent both of you. Not in this." "So you're choosing her." "I'm choosing not to destroy my practice. Amanda's been my client longer, and frankly, she's got deeper pockets." The honesty stung, but I appreciated it. Better than pretending this was about friendship or what was right. Then I need a different lawyer. "George, before you do anything drastic, just think about this. Amanda's offering you a way out. Nice facility, all expenses paid, regular visits. Maybe it's not such a bad deal." You sound like a man who's never been 71. "I'm 68, George. It's not that far away." "Then maybe you should think about what you'd want someone to do to you." After I hung up, I sat in the diner for another hour. Betty kept my coffee cup full and didn't ask questions. Around 10, the morning crowd thinned out, leaving me alone with the local radio station playing softly in the background. The DJ was reading the weather. Partly cloudy, high of 58, chance of rain tonight. Normal life, normal concerns. People worried about whether to carry an umbrella, not whether their own children would have them declared incompetent. My phone buzzed. Text message from Jake. "Skipping school today. Can I see you?" I typed back, "Diner on Main Street. Now if you want." He arrived 20 minutes later, still wearing his pajama shirt under a hoodie. His hair was uncombed, his eyes red-rimmed like he'd been crying or hadn't slept. Maybe both. "Grandpa." He slid into the booth across from me. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry about what Mom's doing." "It's not your fault." I tried to talk to her all night. She just keeps saying she's protecting you, protecting me, doing what's best for the family. Betty appeared with coffee for Jake without being asked. Small towns had their advantages. People remembered how you liked things. What did you tell her? That she's wrong, that you're not crazy or sick or whatever she's trying to prove, that this is all about her being scared and not wanting to deal with it. Smart boy. Too smart for his own good sometimes. And what did she say? That I'm 17 and don't understand how complicated adult relationships are. That when I'm older, I'll see she was right. He took a sip of coffee and made a face. Still not used to it black. "Grandpa, are you really going to fight this? In court?" "I don't know yet. Because if you do, I want to testify. I want to tell them you're not incompetent or dangerous or whatever she's claiming." "Jake, I mean it. I'm almost 18. They have to listen to me, right?" I looked at this boy. This young man, sitting across from me with determination in his Helen blue eyes, ready to stand up in a courtroom and choose sides between his mother and his grandfather, ready to tear his family apart for the sake of doing what was right. "Your mother loves you," I said. "This isn't about you." "Yeah, it is. She said so herself last night. Said she was trying to protect me from having to worry about you, from having to take care of you when I go to college." "And what did you say?" "I said maybe I want to worry about you. Maybe taking care of family isn't something I need protection from." My chest tightened. Helen would have been proud of him. "Jake, if I fight this, it's going to get ugly. Lawyers, depositions, medical examinations. Your mother will have to prove I'm unfit, and I'll have to prove she's wrong. It'll be in the newspapers. Everyone in town will know our business. So, you'll be caught in the middle. You'll have to choose sides. I already have chosen." He leaned forward, his voice intense. "Grandpa, you taught me to stand up for what's right, even when it's hard, even when it hurts. How can I do anything else?" I reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "You're a good boy, but fighting in court won't fix what's broken between your mother and me." "Then what will?" I didn't have an answer for that. Maybe nothing would. Maybe some things, once broken, stayed broken. We sat in silence for a while, watching the lunch crowd filter in. Construction workers, shop clerks, retired people with nowhere particular to be. Normal people living normal lives. "Grandpa?" Jake's voice was quiet. "What was it like when you were my age? When you had to make hard choices?" I thought about being 17, about my father coming home from the war different than when he left, about watching my mother try to hold our family together while he drank himself to sleep every night, about the choice between staying to help or leaving to build my own life. "Scary," I said. "Most of the important choices are—" "Did you ever regret the ones you made?" "Some of them, but not the ones where I tried to do right by people I loved." He nodded, like that made sense. At 1 o'clock, Jake said he had to get home before Amanda realized he'd skipped school. We hugged in the diner parking lot, and he felt solid in my arms, strong, ready for whatever came next. "Grandpa, whatever you decide to do, I'm with you." "I know you are." After he left, I drove to the library and spent 2 hours researching guardianship law. The internet was full of horror stories. Elderly people stripped of their rights by well-meaning children, locked away in facilities against their will, their assets managed by court-appointed strangers. It could happen. Amanda had money for good lawyers, and I was just an old man living in a motel. To an outside observer, maybe I did look like someone who needed protection from his own poor judgment. But I also had that contract, signed, notarized, filed with the county clerk, legal proof that Amanda had agreed to provide me housing in exchange for financial assistance. Hard to argue that someone was incompetent when they had the foresight to document such an agreement. At 4 o'clock, I called information and asked for the number of Michael Chen, attorney at law. I'd seen his billboard on Highway 9, fighting for the rights of seniors. It was worth a try. His secretary scheduled me for 9 the next morning. That evening, I sat in my motel room and did something I hadn't done since Helen's funeral. I called my sister Ruth in Phoenix. "George? My God, where have you been? I've been calling Amanda for weeks." "What did she tell you?" that you'd moved to some kind of senior community, that you were doing well but wanted privacy while you adjusted. Of course, Amanda's version of events, sanitized for family consumption. Ruth, I need to tell you something. I told her everything. The hospital discharge, the locked door, the motel room, the contract Amanda had forgotten about, the guardianship petition, the lawyers, circling like vultures. Ruth was quiet for a long time after I finished. George, do you want me to come up there? Number, yes. I don't know. Because I will. I can be on a plane tomorrow. Ruth was 73, 3 years older than me, widowed 2 years ago, living on Social Security and her late husband's pension. She couldn't afford plane tickets for family drama. I just needed someone to know the truth, I said, in case something happens to me. Nothing's going to happen to you. You're too stubborn to die. I almost smiled. Helen used to say the same thing. Helen was a smart woman. She wouldn't want you to give up now. After we hung up, I sat on the edge of my motel bed and looked at my reflection in the dark window. An old man with tired eyes, wearing a cardigan that had seen better decades. Tomorrow, I'd meet with Michael Chen. We'd discuss strategies, filing deadlines, the likelihood of success. We'd turn my family problems into billable hours and legal briefs. But tonight, I just sat and remembered. I remembered Amanda at 8 years old, helping me plant tomatoes in the backyard garden. Her small hands carefully patting soil around the seedlings while I explained about roots and water and patience. I remembered her at 16, crying in my workshop after her first heartbreak. How she'd let me hold her while she sobbed, trusting me to make the hurt go away, even though we both knew I couldn't. I remembered her at 25, standing in a wedding dress in our living room, asking if she looked beautiful. How my throat had closed up because she looked exactly like Helen at that age, and I couldn't believe how fast the years had gone. I remembered her at 35, calling me at 2 in the morning when Jake had a fever that wouldn't break. How scared she'd sounded, how she'd needed me to tell her she was doing everything right. When had I stopped being the person she turned to? When had I become the person she turned away from? Maybe it didn't matter anymore. Maybe some bridges once burned couldn't be rebuilt. But Jake was still on the other side. Jake still needed someone to show him that family meant fighting for each other, not fighting to be rid of each other. I pulled out the leather folder and looked at the contract one more time. Amanda's signature, young and confident. The date that marked the beginning of this mess. The legal language that might be my salvation or my destruction. She'd signed it because she trusted me, because she believed I'd never use it against her. She was right about that. I wouldn't use it against her. I'd use it for Jake. At 9 o'clock, I turned off the light and tried to sleep. Outside, Highway 9 hummed with its endless traffic, carrying people home to families who wanted them there. Tomorrow, I'd start the fight, not for Amanda's house or my wounded pride or even my legal rights. I'd fight for the right to be grandfather to a boy who wasn't ashamed to love me back. The law office of Michael Chen occupied the second floor of a building that had seen better decades. Faded carpet, fluorescent lights that hummed, the smell of old coffee and legal documents. Chen himself was younger than I'd expected, maybe 40, with graying temples and glasses that kept sliding down his nose. He listened to my story without interrupting, taking notes in handwriting I couldn't read. "The residential agreement is solid," he said when I finished, "but the guardianship petition changes things. If a judge declares you incompetent, the contract becomes irrelevant." "How much will this cost?" $5,000 retainer. Could go higher if it drags out. I thought about my savings account. Enough for Chen's retainer, maybe enough for a fight. Not enough for much else. "I'll need a day to think about it." Walking back to the motel, I passed Mrs. Henderson from the post office. "George Hartwell, I heard you'd moved to some facility. Amanda mentioned you were getting wonderful care." I managed to smile. "It's something." That afternoon, Jake called. "Grandpa, I need to see you. Something's happened." He arrived at the diner carrying a manila folder, his face pale. "She did it," he said. "Mom scheduled your competency evaluation for next week, and she's already picked out your room at Meadowbrook." He opened the folder. Appointment confirmations, brochures, a check register showing a deposit for room reservation. "There's more. She called my school, told them I might need counseling to deal with family transitions." The casual cruelty took my breath away. Not just planning to dispose of me, but planning for Jake's grief. "Jake, I'm going to fight this. It means lawyers, court hearings, ugliness. Your mother's going to be angry." "I don't care. If you fight this, I want to testify. I already talked to my guidance counselor about emancipation." My heart stopped. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying if you get the house back, I want to live there with you. Be family the way family's supposed to be." The boy was willing to tear his world apart for me. The responsibility of that choice terrified me. That evening, I sat in my motel room and thought about Helen's voice from my dreams. Stop fighting for what you lost. Start building what you want. At 8 o'clock the next morning, I called Amanda. "Dad, why are you calling so early?" "I want to make you an offer. Meet me at Harold Morrison's office at 10 o'clock. Bring Jake." "Dad, if this is about that contract—" "It's about family. 10 o'clock, Amanda." I hung up before she could argue. At Harold's office, I spread 3 documents on the conference table. The original residential agreement, a quitclaim deed, and a handwritten will. "I'm giving Jake the house," I said when Amanda arrived with Jake. Amanda blinked. "What?" "The house on Elm Street. The one you inherited and sold. I'm buying it back and signing it over to Jake." "You can't afford that." "I can with the money you paid me for the residential agreement. $127,000 plus interest. Consider it restitution for breach of contract." Her face went pale. "That money was a gift." "It was consideration for a contract you're trying to break." Harold cleared his throat. "Technically, George is correct." I pointed to the handwritten will. "Everything goes to Jake when I die, including the house. But there's a condition. He has to graduate, go to college, build a life. When he's 25, he decides whether to keep it or sell it." "What about Mom?" Jake asked. "Your mother is welcome any time. Welcome to live there if she needs to. But the house belongs to you. Your decision who stays and who goes." Amanda stared at the documents. "This is manipulation. This is me choosing where I want to be old, in the house where 3 generations built something worth preserving. And if I fight you, the guardianship petition." I smiled sadly. "Then I'll be declared incompetent. Jake inherits anyway, and you explained to him why you had his grandfather locked away. Jake looked at his mother. I think Grandpa's giving us a chance to be family again. And if I don't want that chance, then you don't take it. But I'm 17, Mom. In 8 months, I make my own decisions anyway. Amanda sat down heavily. Dad, I was trying to take care of you. I know. In the only way you knew how. I was scared. I know that too. Now we try something different. We try trusting each other. She was quiet, staring at our joined hands. What about Meadowbrook? You'll lose the deposit. The guardianship petition? You'll withdraw it? What about the residential agreement? We tear it up, start over. She looked up with Helen's eyes full of tears. What terms? You helped me move back to Elm Street. I helped Jake through senior year. We remember what Helen would want. What about the stuff I threw away? Grandpa's photos, Jake asked. Amanda flushed. I saved them. Boxes in the garage. I didn't know how to give them back. Now you know, I said. That afternoon, we drove to Elm Street together. The current owners were happy to sell when I made an offer they couldn't refuse. Standing in the yard where Helen and I had raked leaves for 42 years, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. I felt home. Can we paint it white again? Jake asked. Like in the old photos? White would be nice, Amanda said quietly. That evening, Jake helped me move my belongings from the motel to his room. Amanda made pot roast the way Helen used to. We ate in the kitchen where 3 generations had shared meals. Dad, I'm sorry, Amanda said, for forgetting what you'd done for us, for trying to make decisions about your life. I'm sorry, too, for using lawyers instead of talking. Are we going to be okay? I looked around the table, at Amanda, who looked like Helen when worried, at Jake, who had Helen's eyes and my stubborn streak, at the empty chair where Helen's presence still lingered. We're going to try. That's all any family can do. After dinner, Jake found me unpacking Helen's dish towel. What's that? Something that belonged to your grandmother. He touched the faded fabric. It smells like her. Grandpa, are you going to be happy here? I looked around the room that needed fresh paint, new floors, but was filled with 40 years of memories. I think so. Are you? Yeah, I think I am. That night, lying in Jake's twin bed while he slept on the floor, I listened to the familiar sounds of the old house. The furnace, the settling floorboards, the wind through the oak tree Helen and I had planted. Outside, Highway 9 hummed with its endless traffic. But for the first time in months, I wasn't listening to people going away. I was listening to the sound of being home.